Robinhood has announced something very interesting. If you've opened your app recently, you might have seen it. Screen pops up that says the only IRA with a match. Get a 1% match, no employer necessary, a recommendation, and no commission fees. Contribute, we match, instantly get a 1% on every dollar you contribute every year. Now, if you have an IRA with Robinhood already, if you have a Roth IRA, a traditional IRA, hey, this is probably gonna be great news for you. If you're thinking about whether or not you should open up an IRA with Robinhood to get this match, it's gonna be a bit more complicated, and we're gonna have to discuss that. Because one of the reasons is not everyone's actually eligible to open an IRA up, and well, we're gonna go over that in a second. But let's first talk about a regular 401k versus a IRA with Robinhood. So the first thing we really need to discuss is what is a 401k and also something called a 403b, because you may have that with your employer. Both a 401k and a 403b, they have tax advantages. So let's say you want to put money into a 401k, you can deduct it on your taxes and you won't have to pay tax on the money that goes into that account. It's a pre-tax account. You have to pay taxes later on when you take the money out, but you don't have to pay taxes before you put the money in. Same with a 403b. A 403b is basically if you work at some type of nonprofit organization, a school like a university or something like that, sometimes you'll have access to a 403b. So 403b versus 401k, they're very similar. Depending on where you work, your employer, it might have a Roth option. So Roth option basically says that you can put money in after you pay taxes, but then you have to pay taxes while it grows. That's another way to look at this. It could be a Roth option or a traditional option, or they may have matching contributions. So your employer may actually put money into this account for you. So it's very important that we discuss what's going on with having, if you have access to your own employer match. You're gonna see why in a second. What's a 401k match? Well, let's use an example, and this is kind of a very popular way to do this. A company might say, we're gonna give you a 50% match, and it's based on 6% of your income, and it's gonna go up to a maximum of $3,000. How does this work out? Well, let's say you have income of $100,000. So how much money do you get in the match if you have $100,000? Given a 50% match that's based on 6% of income up to $3,000, this is how it looks. 6% of your income of $100,000, that's your match. It's only going to be actually $3,000 because the cap is 3. But if they didn't have a cap of 3, maybe the cap was 6, it could have been up to $6,000. So when you're looking at the documents, according to the plan that you have through your employer, it's going to look like something maybe like this, right? There's gonna be some stipulations maybe similar to this. And the next thing we need to talk about is how much money you can actually put into a 401k. And remember, it's important to understand IRAs and 401ks together in the situation here. So basically 2023 401k's contribution limits, $22,500. That's a decent chunk of money you can put into your 401k or your 403b. Now $7,500 is also going to be available for someone who is over the age of 50, and this is called a catch-up. So you can put more money in if you're over that age. And then this is the combined amount of money that the employer and the employee can put into a 401k in a year. Next up, we have IRA contribution limits. So these are different. If you have a 401k, that's everything we just discussed. If you have a 403b, all the things we just discussed. But if you have an IRA, this is different. $6,500 is the amount you can add into an IRA. $7,500 if you're over the age of 50, if you want to do a catch-up. If you want to do a Roth, it's the same. And you have the same $66,000 up to 25% of your income. For a SEP IRA, don't worry about the SEP. I mean, if you have one, then you want to know about this, but we're really not going to get too complicated in this video. So why does it even matter 401k versus IRA here? Why am I talking about this for a potential Robinhood match video? Here's the reason. These are the 2023 IRA contribution limits. If you're eligible for an employer-sponsored plan, if you're eligible for a 401k with the place you work, a 403b place you work, then this is going to apply to you. So for example, if you're single and you make between $73,000 a year and $83,000 a year, you're going to phase out the amount of money you're actually allowed to put into an IRA. If you also have a 401k or 403b or an employer-sponsored plan that's available at your work. If you do make more than this amount, let's say you make $100,000, filing status is single. That means that you're not actually eligible. If you have an employer-sponsored plan, you're not going to be able to get that tax advantage part of the IRA. It's actually not going to be working very much in your benefit, basically. You're not going to be able to put money in pre-tax. You're going to have to pay taxes when you take the money out, and it's going to be post-tax income that goes into the IRA. That's not necessarily a good thing if you have access to a 401k. So you need to understand that if you have 401k access at your work, well, you're going to want to basically talk to an accountant. And by the way, before we keep going here, disclaimer, I am not an accountant, people, okay? Please talk to an accountant, please, please, please talk to an accountant. I'm my own accountant. I talk to the accountant about these things. I'm just making a video about what I understand about it, okay? I'm not a financial advisor anymore. So just go talk to an accountant, someone who has authority to talk to you about something like this. Okay, so next up, we have 2023 Roth contribution limit. So if you want to put money into a Roth instead of a traditional, well, it's going to be different. So same thing, if you're eligible for an employer-sponsored plan, a 401k or 403b where you work, this is going to be a bit different. 138,000 is the full contribution limit up until 153,000, which is where it phases out. So again, if you make like 155,000 a year and you're single, that's how you file your taxes, well, then you're not going to be able to also get that tax deduction or the tax advantages of having a Roth IRA. So you wouldn't really want to probably put money into it. I mean, maybe you have your own reasons, but most people won't want to put money into a Roth if they're not going to get the tax advantages that are given to someone who has a Roth if they make too much money, basically. That's the main thing that we need to understand in this video. So what are some of the advantages and disadvantages here? So not an all-encompassing list, but just some ideas here. You get higher contribution limits in a 401k and a 403b. You have an available match. If your employer does match you, then you get that. So that can be a great benefit. Traditional or regular Roth IRAs, up until this point, you're gonna get better investment options. So usually you're gonna have more investment options because you can go on Robinhood, for example, and there's thousands of different securities you can invest in. You can invest in ETFs, you can invest in bond funds, you can invest in individual stocks, you can invest in all sorts of different things that you're probably not gonna be available inside a 401k. And the other thing that's very new now, apparently, is that there is a match available with Robinhood. And before, this wasn't the case with a general IRA, right? There's no companies that were offering something like this. And check this out. First ever match paid to retail customers. So this is the first time a company has done this. This is actually a very interesting new concept. The firm's gonna match 1% of the annual IRA contribution limits, which we just talked about, 6,500. And by the way, this is an article from CNBC, and I'm just taking parts of the article. This is the whole article. Here it says, investor under 50 who contributes the maximum $6,500 is going to have $65 in matching funds. So it's not a ton of money, right? Up to you whether you think that is going to be enough money for you to maybe go in and open up an IRA with Robinhood instead of the other place you might have done it. At the end of the day, remember, you need to understand that there are limits to how much you can actually put into an IRA. If you already have an employer-sponsored plan eligibility somewhere, take that into consideration. And the other thing that Robinhood is showing us, so here it says on the Robinhood app, there's a hypothetical illustration that's saying, for your match to work, an extra 1% every year could grow to an extra 26,000 plus in 40 years. So basically, it could be a decent chunk of money over a pretty long period of time. Obviously, 40-year period is a pretty long time. Hey, whoa, everyone. Sorry, one sec. I forgot something. I want to make sure you understand that if you take money out of this account within 5 years, you are not going to get your match. So you have to hold it at least 5 years to get the match. Make sure you understand that part. That's an important part of this. I want to make sure you understand that. And by the way, I do have an affiliate link below for Robinhood if you want to sign up. And we're going back. So that's all I have for this video. I got some other videos on the screen right here. You can take a look at these and hit that like button, subscribe, and I'll see you next time.